In Privacy Watch, New York's Attorney General is raising new questions about the FCC's upcoming vote to repeal net neutrality rules, which is scheduled for next week.
That's right. Eric Schneiderman's office is reviewing millions of comments submitted to the FCC and weighing in on the proposed repeal of the Obama-era internet regulations. Critics of the FCC's plan say that many of the public comments are fake, submitted by bots or automated accounts. Schneiderman and FCC Commissioner Jessica Rosenworcel are seeking to delay the vote.
Alex McGeorge is a cybersecurity expert, and he joins us now from Washington. So, Alex, this is quite interesting. Let's start with the FCC comments. Can you describe just how so many fake comments could be submitted to the FCC on net neutrality and the challenges that New York's Attorney General might face in trying to review them all?
Certainly. So, it's interesting. I think a lot of people are kind of aware that when you make an internet sort of forum that allows for comment from pretty much anybody, you end up with whales, right, that are named like Mr. Splashy Pants or bridges named after Stephen Colbert. So when you go to the FCC's site that allows you to submit comments, it asks you for a few very basic details, but as far as I'm able to tell, it doesn't verify any of those details. And further, there is no CAPTCHA, right, which is a technology that people use to deter automated submission of comments like this. So the AG has an interesting problem. And I wish Mr. Schneiderman's team the best of luck. What they're going to need to do is probably subpoena the logs from the FCC web servers and whoever else is hosting this, as well as the content of all the comments. Now, these comments are public, so it is possible for you, me, pretty much anybody to download them in bulk if we were so interested in to do analysis ourselves.
So, Alex, a lot of people might find this really interesting. The FCC typically takes into account public opinion when creating policy. That's really surprising. How is the Commission handling reports of fraudulent comments?
Well, the Commission is kind of stonewalling. If you look at their, we have one of the Democratic chairs, or excuse me, someone on a Democratic person in charge of the FCC at a high level has also said that they need to delay the vote. But if you look at some of the comments by their chief press person, Tina Plesky, I believe, she has essentially said that, this is not a big issue. And, the AG was not able to point to any specific comments, and they're saying that this isn't a problem. So while I applaud the FCC for allowing public comment, I think they have a duty to do better in terms of ensuring that those comments are, in fact, legitimate. And there are a variety of technologies they can use to do that.
Let's talk about something else. You talk a little bit about this. The FCC is suing a company called LexCorp for running what it called a full-fledged cyber scam by fundraising through an initial coin offering. Were they trying to pretend to have a new cryptocurrency and fundraise for that? Explain what was going on there.
Sure. So, I think many of your viewers are probably at least peripherally aware of this thing called Bitcoin and how it's, worth a lot of imaginary money at the moment. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of other cryptocurrencies that are coming in trying to sort of, I don't want to say cash in, but ride the wave of Bitcoin popularity and their valuations. So if you read the FCC complaint, it's actually quite interesting. In my reading, what they essentially allege is that LexCorp is operating as sort of like a standard company and is attempting to use this coin, or this token, if you will, as sort of a substitute for stock. So, for example, the executives that are involved in LexCorp have to be confidential because they're saying they're going to get poached. The way that this company is going to make money is sort of nebulous if you read, some of the comments that the SEC has included in their complaint. And what they're trying to do, I think, is try to skirt some of the stock law by saying, okay, well, we're not going to call it stock, we're just going to call it, a token. And just kind of ride the cryptocurrency wave to kind of get around some of the more traditional regulation and law around trying to do exactly what they're doing. So I believe that there is a coin, but it doesn't appear to be operating in the same way that Bitcoin does, where you kind of mine for it. It looks as though they're going to be issuing it, which really is what makes me think it sounds a lot like stock, but just by another name.
So these risks, just go into more detail, the risks that are associated with these cryptocurrencies.
Sure. I mean, cryptocurrencies, so one of the things that human beings are very good at is, securing physical locations, right? We're really good at making sure that you can't walk into a bank and steal something. What we're not so good at is doing the same thing with computers. Humans are horrible at writing secure software. So one of the big risks, and I think if you look at the history of cryptocurrency exchanges, you'll note that all of this kind of money or proof that you have these assets is kept in digital wallets, and they're kept on exchanges where you can sell or trade for different cryptocurrencies or actual real hard currency. Many of these exchanges have had very serious security issues and have suffered breaches and have to close as a result. We have a saying in my industry that if you would want a free network assessment, just put $10,000 worth of Bitcoin on a server in your infrastructure, tweet that it's there, and wait to see how long it takes for someone to get it, and then work backwards. So I think the risks are this is an unregulated exchange, is an unregulated currency, and there are positives and negatives to that. But I think the main risk is, one, that you're going to lose, potentially you can lose your money to, a cyber actor of some variety. And two, the protections that I think a lot of American investors are used to when investing in the stock market or even other like regular currency exchanges are not afforded to them. So with greater freedom comes greater risk. And I think those are really kind of where it's at and how the SEC is now starting to respond to that because people are used to those protections.
Let me ask you about something that's been bubbling up, this idea that there might be a Bitcoin bubble. What do you make of that? Is Bitcoin overrated, overpriced?
I mean, Bitcoin is, it's a very interesting experiment. I think, it hit, I want to say it hit, 11,000 recently and then had, a very big dip. So, the forces that are affecting Bitcoin and its popularity are in some ways difficult to gauge because it doesn't behave like a traditional market. So do I think that we're in a bubble where this currency is valued higher than it's actually worth? Yeah, I would say so, just based on my understanding of the current market and how precipitously it has risen. Do I think there's intrinsic value and worth to Bitcoin? I do. Where that's going to settle, it's difficult to say. I don't know that I would want to predict that. But I think right now we're at a peak, and I think there will probably be a correction if Bitcoin behaves the way we think traditional markets behave.
Maybe we'll have you on if that ever happens.
Exactly. Alex McGeorge, yeah, thank you. Such a great and fascinating discussion. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.